Hello and welcome to Conversations with the Voice of Reason. I'm your host, Benjamin Boyce, and today's conversants are Stella O'Malley and Alasdair Gunn, alias Angus Fox. They're both returning guests and have done a lot of work with the organization called GenSpect, which provides a variety of resources for parents and children and detransitioners to help them out from a neutral and not necessarily gender-affirming point of view. In this conversation, we talk a lot about a lot of things. We talk about online grooming, specifically targeted grooming, where one person preys upon another person, usually an older person preying upon a younger person to exploit them for personal gain. And we also talk about maids, and we talk about the gender issue, and we just have a good evening together over whiskey. Well, they're drinking whiskey. I'm drinking chai tea because of the time differential. All that said, you can find links to their work down there in the description. And if you want more of Alasdair and Stella, go ahead and check my back catalog, because a lot of the conversation is kind of an outgrowth of previous conversations that we've had. Without further ado, here is Stella O'Malley and Alasdair Gunn.
You're looking very Christmassy.
I'm trying to festive it up a little bit.
Well, tonight, Christmas begins in Ireland tonight. I've been trying to tell Alasdair about this last year and this year. So tonight is a very special night in Ireland because it's the Christmas toy show. And we have this kind of famous TV program that's been going for something like 60 years. And it's always late night, kind of once a week, talk TV, kind of serious politics. And once a year on Christmas toy show night, which is tonight, the kids take over and everybody gets sweets and all the kids review the toys about what they want to get for Christmas. And it's really good. And every kid in Ireland stays up until 12 o'clock watching the toy show. So it'll be on after this.
And that's like the official...
It's Christmas begins at Christmas toy show night, yeah. So that's tonight.
What's been going on?
Oh, 40, 50. Oh, I watched it when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
And like the biggest thing anybody, it was like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, to get a ticket to be one of the kids on the Christmas toy show, like to review the toys that nobody else had ever seen. Now, since electronics have come in, it's not as good because they're reviewing electronics, which isn't as exciting.
I was going to say, how does that work? I'm not sure.
It's not as good.
No.
But they do reviews of books and stuff like that. They take it seriously.
Thank you very much.
Henry's brought us in a hot whiskey.
Thank you very much.
Ooh, hot whiskey.
We're being a little bit chaotic here. Now we're sorted.
It's a Friday night. First night of Christmas. Is there like a Irish Christmas carol, like particular to the land of the green?
Oh yeah, the Wexford
shades?
Carol is
The
There's loads of them.
Wexford.
The Wexford Carol.
How does that go?
I don't think I ever told you that.
You did, I think, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The Wexford Carol is beautiful. Oh my God, we own Christmas.
How does it go?
Oh no, I wouldn't sing. It's really hard, but it's really good. There's some gorgeous.
Still Irish?
No, but there's another one called Ihanullig, which is in Irish, which is my favourite song, I'd say, and it's certainly my favourite Christmas song, which is lovely. Sure, we have Fairy Tale. Fairy Tale of New York.
Do you have a
One
fairy
of the
tale?
most famous Christmas songs. You know Fairy Tale of New York?
I don't know that one.
Are you being funny?
No. How does it go? Can you sing the melody or just hum the...
Well, the line that comes to mind.
It's they stopped being able to play it on the radio because it contains the 6-letter F word.
You scumbag, you maggot, you cheap lousy. Happy Christmas, my arse. I pray God it's our last.
That's just too cynical to make it across the Atlantic. They just can't deal with it. They're just like, well, this is so upsetting. You're ruining Christmas.
Yeah, man. You'll have to put that on the background.
That's the Pogues, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are they not from round my way?
Yeah, but they're Irish. London Irish.
No. I meant round my way, as in down the road.
Oh, Tipperary. Yeah, Shane McGill's from Tipperary. Silver Mines, Nina.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, so you don't like musicals, but you're okay with punk rock, Alasdair?
Well, you wouldn't say that's punk rock, would you?
The Pogues aren't punky?
Punky.
Yeah, they're
A
okay.
punky.
The Pogues are slightly punky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm quite picky with music. I've got about. It's
Do you know
quite
Alistair
sad.
is brilliant on the piano? He
No,
plays like
Jazzy?
a proper professional
no, I don't.
pianist.
So,
Do you know?
no, I don't. So
Well,
you've just shown yourself up as somebody who doesn't. There's two types of people.
ridiculous.
Exactly. There's two types of people who listen to me play the piano. There are people who are like, "Wow, that's amazing," and then there are people who know music and they're like,
Oh, really?
yeah."
Oh,
Every time I play a piece, there's one fewer
but
note.
he's got the gestures. And he's got he looks really good when he's playing.
No, seriously, every time I play it, there's one fewer note because I just go there for the bits I don't like, and then these pieces just get shorter and shorter and shorter.
Clever you.
Yeah.
Efficient.
Just bodge the way through the difficult bit. Yeah. I've heard you sing.
Oh yeah, I play music and I sing and all that. Sure, I'm Irish.
Do you go a wassailing? Or is that strictly London thing?
A what of it?
A wassailing, is that wassailing or
A wassailing.
Yeah, here we go, a wassailing, we go. It's a Christmas carol, but it's about drinking a lot. And you go around and you get rum from other people or something.
Oh, yeah.
Do you go march around singing with a band of merry misfits, Stella?
I don't.
Oh.
I don't. There is a concept on Stephen's Day, the day after Christmas, that Wren boys go around houses with
What boys?
Wren boys,
Oh, I thought you said something completely
and they dress up
different.
and they sing and they have a drink.
What's a wren boy?
It's big down at Cork and Kerry, a Wren boy, yeah, and you get money for the Wren,
Okay.
yeah, and they sing. So it's very like a wassailing. Yeah, it exists. I just still stuck on You Not Know Fairy Tale. Benjamin, that is bizarre. That's the biggest Christmas song in the world.
Is it though? I don't think so.
It's Tall, wasn't it?
Yeah, Shane, you're wrong, Jimmy. You're way out of here, man.
Okay, no, I need more Christmas music in my life. I've been toying with a Christmas album called Merry Wokemas, my Wokemas Christmas Girls. So I've been going through.
This was banned
every
out
year.
of Wokery. It was huge for 20 years, and then the Wokeries came in, or the Wokeists landed, and they've kind of tried to get rid of it, but it hasn't been got rid of. But I think it should be our theme when we're talking today. I think you should bring it in with this. And it's this, yeah. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I'll be Shane, you can be Kirsty.
Thanks. I get to be the one who gets killed in a speedboat accident.
Oh,
Mind you, with no teeth, so.
I love Shane.
Do you?
I do.
Okay, fair enough. That's a nice hot whiskey.
Very good. My
Yeah.
husband's a genius at hot whiskies.
what is in it? Like lemon and honey?
Cloves
Sugar.
and sugar.
We're both sick,
Yeah.
but we turned up for you.
Oh,
We are.
is this COVID or just ailments of a general nature?
No, just a cold.
Yeah. But like Alistair's immunosuppressed, so it's much more serious with Alistair than me.
Yeah.
It's just not going away. It's just stuck with it, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah, been another couple of weeks, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pain in the arse.
Yeah.
Apparently everyone's got it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's okay. It's just a way of the immune system, catching up, downloading a new file, rebooting the hard drive kind of thing, right?
Yep.
Happens every year, or it used to, before we got scared of
COVID.
it. Yeah. Well, I mean,
We
yeah.
had a couple of gender parents, what we call them, came across from England to visit me, and it was lovely and to visit you. And I'd say it's that thing when people go on a plane and then they get off the plane. I kind of sound like I'm blaming them, but do you know what I mean? I think that, and then like 2 days later, I got it.
Oh.
Now, they didn't, but I wonder whether it was.
Could have been there, yeah.
Yeah.
I probably got it from my daughter. She's in school and she's been hacking away for the last few weeks.
What grade is she in? Is she in college? Uni? I don't know.
Third year, which makes her she's 15, and my little boy is in first year, and he's 13.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's different from the English system, then.
Yeah, it is different from the English and from the American. I can't keep up with the grades and the years. It's too hard for every school, every country's so different. I can't keep up with it.
No.
What's your screen policy, Stella, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, yes, I'll share it. I'm very into bring down the screens at night. I've tried to keep a lot of control over the screens, and I'm realizing now that my daughter's 15, I'm losing that control, and it feels normal. It feels like, yeah, she's 15 and she's basically saying, back off. I'm doing my own thing, and I know not to make a show of myself. And this is insulting for you to be all over it. But I haven't been as all over it as I thought I would be. So I was all over it in the first couple of years, so 13 and 14, but I've really been quite lax now.
Do you think...
Yeah, sorry. Go on. It's really complicated. It's really tricky. It's very easy to, when I was given all these talks and saying, don't do this, don't do that. But in reality, it's really tricky.
I was going to say, do you think if you had like 5 daughters...
Oh, God.
Do you think by the time you got to the 5th, you'd just be like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, just
totally. She's already having a fit because my little boy has already got more screens. And if there was a third, it would be embarrassing. Yeah. No,
that's such a classic parenting thing.
Yeah.
I get it. It's so much easier than my sister.
Yeah. Yeah.
Way.
Yeah. But also, I suppose I'm conscious with the boy, his first year. I think 13 is a really tricky age for screens, really tricky. So I'm trying to be all over him. But basically, I have this kind of policy as I'm allowed to look at your screens, but I should look at them more. I don't.
I've seen you do that, though.
Have you?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 Like, show
me your screens. I want to see what's going on here.
Yeah.
As in, if you're putting it up, I should be able to see it. I know other people would disagree, but I think, God, the mad stuff that goes on screens, it needs to be. There's a very interesting I heard somebody say it and I thought, I like that. They said, companies already have a policy and families should follow the policy that companies have. As in, if you do it on your screen, it's company policy. We can see it.
Mm.
Yeah. So families should have that. Like, if it's on your screen, we can see it. If you want to have it private, go and do it. Speak to them or talk to them on the phone. Mm-hmm. But I speak a better battle than I act. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
It's all in the theory. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
You don't have kids, do you, Benjamin?
No. I just have a couple of cats.
Quiet about his private life, isn't he?
Every once in a while.
Writing a musical about his private life, I'd say.
What?
What'd you say, Benjamin?
What?
We were just wondering, you're very quiet about your private life, aren't you?
Well, every once in a while somebody leans into me and I have to divulge little tidbits and stuff, but...
It's a bit like how, do you remember Gok Wan, who would only ever wear black?
Yeah.
Like some fashion designers will only ever wear black.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be the story.
Yeah.
So they just want to kind of...
Well, he's kind of like...
it's a little bit...
Well, that's... Gok Wan is one... slightly insulting comparison.
Well, what's wrong with I was thinking, I quite like Gok Wan.
He's a very frivolous guy.
Hold on. That's not true. I'm going to show you. No, he did some beautiful episodes. He did this episode. Yeah, he did. He did this episode with this woman who'd had a mastectomy.
Oh, yeah. I've heard
that. She'd lost all confidence in herself. He's this guy, and he basically dresses people to feel more confident in their own bodies. And he took her into a shopping centre. You could see she was suffering. And then he said, and then they were up on this balcony, and he said, and he did it like a whistle, and he said, if you've had breast cancer, put your hand up. And he'd arranged it so the entire shopping centre was women.
I've seen that.
And they were all, and she kind of burst into tears. And then, he does stuff like that. That is quite valuable, I think.
No, that's lovely.
It is.
And did he get her tops that looked nice?
Yeah.
Good.
And he used to do this thing with kind of just like, these people who'd lost all their confidence, and they were swaddling themselves. They were just like tented, and he would come at them with like a pair of dress scissors and cut away the material so they could then pull it all in so they could see their figure. And these people were kind of like, oh, until they realised they had a figure.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, I've been mean. I think you're more like a psychoanalyst, Benjamin. Blank.
Why do you say that?
How does that make you feel?
I'm feeling some projection here, Stella.
Free association. Yeah. Totally. You should be really wearing a cravat. But yeah, the lengthy free association conversations, and you don't direct them at all. And it's very psychoanalysis, if you ask me. All these psychoanalysts will no doubt write in and say why I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Even that.
Picking up on the thread about the fashion, what's that guy's name again?
Gok Wan.
Gok Wan.
Yeah.
Is he?
He's English, but he's Cantonese. I'd say he's Hong Kong.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he was born in England. He's an Englishman. And he's I think he was in America for a bit. I think they did an American version.
Kind of makeover guy.
Yeah.
There's this lovely young woman, Cynthia Breheny. She's on Twitter. You guys have probably interacted with her, and I had her on my channel earlier this year, I believe. But she had massive gender dysphoria, never transitioned, but massive gender dysphoria, massive problems with her father. Sexual abuse, stuff like that. And what she ended up doing was going to California and working with this photographer who would take pictures of women who have problems with sexual abuse specifically, or getting out of the DSM community, and showing them, working with their sense of aesthetic beauty, right? And as therapy, right? And I was just thinking along the lines, because you do see, and it's more from the feminine quarter, kind of sex behavior, stereotypically, this, especially in the detransitioner, rebuilding confidence, really trying to accept their body and trying to see themselves as beautiful. That's kind of an important thing that's not really talked about, because it is seen as kind of vain, and a lot of the trans stuff is really shallow and really narcissistic, but there's a component of beauty.
It's a really, really good point. Remember, myself and Alasdair kind of did devise the program of Beyond Trans, and it's up and running. We've over 77, 79 clients have gone through us so far, so it's amazing. But there's two things that have come up. I thought it was all about therapy, because of course I would, because I'm a therapist, but they're not so into therapy. Now, thankfully, we anticipated we needed a holistic program, so we offered lots of others. And it's really noticeable, two things that I think has come out of this so far. One is huge amount of medical questions, where endocrinologists, doctors, huge amount, just give me the details. Tell me what are the medical, answers to these questions. Huge amount of unknown medical questions, which I hadn't anticipated we had to deal with. And the second is that, what you've just talked about, Benjamin, which is a visual aesthetic kind of. And Lordy does that, Lordy on Twitter.
I was just about to mention.
She does those pictures of I think it's such a brilliant, brilliant project.
I think it's a great
but
idea.
I remember once watching an amazing documentary on anorexics. And the person, very like what you've just described, Benjamin, was a photographer who took photos of them to kind of get them to. He tried to take photos where he'd show a softer side to them, to soften their understanding of themselves. It's a kind of he was trying to show their vulnerability in the photos. It wasn't that kind of weirdy pro Anna kind of look how skinny I am. It was showing the vulnerability in the person, and so you'd soften towards them. It was a really, really lovely project. I think that's where we should go with Beyond Transition. An aesthetic, I
agree.
An artistic aesthetic thing.
Portraits. There's something about
Lordy.
The style of them.
Brilliant.
They are, but it's like you say, they're not kind of like, oh, I'm going to make you look really feminine, like I'm going to feminize you in some kind of false way. They're quite, like,
and just for the audience, Lordy is a painter, and she does portraits of detransitioners specifically, and she's got 40 or 50.
Devon, I think.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal and kind of under-celebrated.
Yes.
Because it's a brilliant project. She's done 100. I don't know if she's done more, but I know she's done 100.
I wonder what the male equivalent of that would be, if there is one. Do you know what I mean? Like,
would you not say the same? No.
I don't know. Maybe I would. Maybe I wouldn't.
I would.
Be interesting to see. If somebody would take up on it and do like portraits of the lads.
Yeah, totally.
There is Alasdair, when we spoke with Richie, we talked a lot about physical activity, and I think that there's like a male in action, like getting men back into action or some sort of performative thing, maybe music or comedy or just something
Comedy.
I don't know, just vocalizing and playing, being themselves, like really getting used to being, kind of breaking them out of their shell maybe a little bit. There's a preponderance of introversion, it seems
You're
like.
right. You were hilarious when Alistair and Richie were on, and he was saying, "Get them out into the sports fields."
Down the mines! Get them down the mines!
Sasha says it in a much more therapeutic way. Sasha, who does the podcast with me. And so, sorry, that's my dog. I'll probably get rid of her. No, I'll get rid of her. She just annoys.
Oh, poor thing.
That's fine.
She's quite a sweet dog.
Terrier? Can you describe this dog? Big dog, small dog, lap dog, French dog?
What kind of dog is she? She's
Pomeranian.
Is she a Pomeranian?
Yeah, cross. She's lovely, but she's troublesome. I love her, but she's
a swap, honestly. I'd swap.
But Sasha has some lovely ideas, exactly what you're talking about. Sasha Ayad, she has kind of like, see what your body can do, therapeutically, like maybe bodybuilding and see what weight. Now, you can get too into that, but abseiling or mountaineering, it's testing, it's kind of making friends with your body. What can your body do? I think that's really good.
It's acting, because when I was so miserable in my teenage years, as you know, and it was acting for me. Yeah.
Oh, in musicals?
In a couple of school plays, and
I'd say he was Shakespeare, was he? Rather than the musicals.
I was in The Crucible, and I was in A Doll's House, and
were you?
Yeah.
Are you good?
I think I was all right. I was offered a place at Italia Conti, if you can believe that. Do you know what Italia Conti is?
I do.
I don't.
Yeah.
Was that like Carnegie Hall for?
No, it's just it's a
notch
drama school.
Top notch.
Yeah.
Top notch. In Ireland, there's the Gaiety. Like, it's only the good ones who get in. Like, it's only good ones who are even. The way there's always. I'm sure there's equivalent in America. Little old America probably has something.
I think it's probably a very good thing I didn't go.
Why?
Jesus, can you imagine?
Yeah.
15-year-old gay boy, put him into that environment, I would have been turned into a nightmare, I suspect. But yeah, that's very physical and public.
I think he would have been lovely, great. Bored to be an actor, no?
Alasdair, it might have been the case that no matter what you've done when you were 15, you would have gotten in a lot of trouble. I think it was just like part of your karma.
That may or may not be true. Yeah, that's probably true. But it definitely that definitely helped. That definitely helps.
I think you'd be a great actor. Flamboyant.
Right.
Verbose.
We're circling around some other words here.
But he's large.
I was very confused by that video clip. I was thinking, this is a bloody strange musical.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a wonderful film. You should watch it. It's worth watching. It's not cringy when they get to the music. It's hilarious.
It's that picture did look very strange. I do forget when I see pictures of myself and I'm like, and you look really, really short.
Me?
Next to me, yeah, you do.
Wow. I did see it. He's large. He's so large. He's tall.
What's he saying?
It was really good. I think I was very sick yesterday and I saw it in the midst of my sickness. It's just come back to me. He's large. Something really old fashioned.
Yeah. It's like a throwback to the 20s, I think, or something. Some little fishing town. It's glorious.
How did you find that?
I grew up on that show, that film. It's brilliant. Robin Williams. You would have never guessed. He plays Popeye. He's blonde.
I love Robin Williams.
You wouldn't cast him as Popeye, though, would you? I wouldn't.
I kind of would, yeah. I was very sick yesterday in the midst of the haze. It's just come back to me. He's large. Are we ever going to meet you, Benjamin? I wonder when you come over to Ireland.
There's a lot of people over there. There's a lot of people over there. I should take a tour of...
We're making a little gender hub. You and me.
Do. Come over.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in London and south of London and north
of London.
Run a
night. Come over and do a night and interview people on stage.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It'd be brilliant.
Retire somewhere in Dublin. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a really good idea.
You're very welcome.
You're full of good ideas at the minute.
She's always like, I have an idea for you. I have an idea for you too. She's like, she's got a lot of ideas.
I was once told that you have ideas for 95% of people you meet, don't you, Stella? I was like, yeah, I kind of do.
What percentage of people take up on the idea?
Yeah, that's the issue. But this is a good idea. You come over, we rent a night, have a theatre, you're on the stage, and you interview people. It'll be really good.
And then you can have a pub night the night afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the night off.
Well, yeah, it's got to be the night of, right? You do
both.
You can do some wassailing.
If you like.
Or renning, whatever.
Wassailing.
Hire some wren boys.
Yeah, the wren, the king of the birds.
Oh, wren with a W. Okay, that makes slightly more
Sorry,
sense.
now do you know what it
I
means?
just thought it was
The ram, that's what they call it. WREN.
right, okay.
King of the birds.
I'll have to look it up. I think Corinna's coming over.
Is she?
Yeah.
You should come over, Benjamin. You should come over.
Not like it's a long way and involves lots of hassle.
No. I know.
Someday.
One thing, when somebody is sick, people make an effort to come over, and it's the better for the world.
Oh no, I know. I'm completely
Yeah.
exploiting that.
But it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
It is.
It's a good thing, yeah.
And often people want an excuse to travel as well. And they feel guilty about spending the money on travel. If you're ill, then
It's a good thing.
yeah.
Corinna's coming over.
I think so.
Have you interviewed Corinna, Benjamin? You probably have. You've interviewed everybody.
I think so. Most everybody.
Corinna did a really good interview with Benjamin. Well, rather, Benjamin did a really good interview with Corinna and Denise from Fourth Grade New.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's worth watching. It's really
Whoa.
Yeah, they're a good pair.
Yeah.
But it was unsurprised. That was kind of a surprising cocktail to get them both down.
Yeah.
But I like branching out into the duels, right? Like we're doing here.
Do you?
You get to watch the vibe shift, and
Me and Sasha have all sorts of exciting ideas for January. Oh, yeah.
oh no,
We'll be biting at your at your heels there, Benjamin.
I just had Marciano on about
You did.
what,
Lovely
Geta?
Lisa.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's got like 7 projects coming up with you guys.
Saturday the 3rd. Going to have a clinical guide.
Oh, wait, so you're part of GETA too, right? Gender
I am.
Exploratory Therapy Association. Yeah.
And we're launching a clinical guide, and we're launching it on Saturday the 3rd, and it's very exciting.
Yeah.
I designed the logo. That's
Oh,
my claim.
did you?
Yeah.
Apart from that, it's all on you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be great, this clinical guide. People will have something. It's the first step to kind of, I would argue, say there are alternatives to WPATH, which is far, very needed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Isn't there like an organization beyond WPATH? I see that trending every once in a while, I think. Are you guys
You're going to be interviewing Joseph Burgo. He does beyond WPATH.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely genius. And what I love about it, it's kind of running with a kind of a almost a branding with Beyond Trans that we've done. Then there's Beyond WPATH, and we're moving beyond this shit show, crap,
garbage.
This gender stereotyped, regressive medicalization. Give all your life to the pharmacy. Yeah. We're moving beyond it. I think beyond. Courtesy of the king himself. That word beyond, it's so clever.
Because it's not.
You agree, don't you?
I do. I think it's a stroke of genius. And I also just want to say, Joe is. I think Joe's brilliant, man. He's great, and I think it's kind of. There's a beautiful simplicity to it because it's like. I think the thing about saying we're going beyond is it's not a but. It's an and. It's like, all of this stuff about the dysphoria, and you're kind of like, yeah, okay. And you're not just a walking gender identity. Yep. Society is not just a battle between this and that.
And we got stuck. And now we're going beyond trans, beyond gender, beyond WPATH. We're going beyond them. And we needed to. Oh my God, we got so stuck in this regressive scenario that wasn't helping anybody. I think we're moving beyond it.
I think it feels kind of, nobody wants to say it, but it does feel really positive at the moment. I think it feels really positive at the moment.
It does feel, there's been movement.
Yeah.
There's been movement.
Yeah.
There's a general feeling of we've got to the main population.
Yeah.
Finally. All we ever needed to do was get information out to the population.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting it.
And we've done it in a way which is hopefully compassionate towards it. We're not playing the game of it's a delusion, there's no such thing as these feelings and all that kind of
or it's a fetish.
Equally simplistic crap, because you could see this battle being won that way, and then
I fear, I'll be honest, I'll be interested in what you've got to say, Benjamin. I fear for Britain, or no, America. I think Britain and Ireland and Europe are moving beyond. I fear that in America it's moving towards gun laws, abortion rights, trans rights, red states, blue states, screaming outside clinics, placards. The vibe from over here seems to be that's where it's going, which is devastating.
The way I listened back to the interview I did with you, and I thought, God, I come off as really anti-American, and I'm...
No, you're bad about them.
Yeah. So the way I feel about it is, the worst thing a parent can say is like, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. That's how I feel about America. Like, I'm not angry, I'm genuinely disappointed. Because honestly, bear with me, you would think if there was to be one country in the English-speaking world which would resist group identitarianism and say, we're going to hold on to the idea of the individual, like the humanist individual.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't you say, like, America would stand
individual.
A good...
Yeah.
And yet, that's not the way it's gone.
Yeah.
There's more than one America. I think there's the ruling America, like the United States government, the state, which is basically in bed with the media and the universities. It's those people who are really insulated from reality in a lot of different ways. And they basically control the world. They definitely prop up Europe, and the Europe has kind of followed their lead since World War II. So it's so entrenched, and the identitarian politic and, that globalist, cosmopolitan, do what thou willst, kind of post-human way of thinking that's infected that level, the media and the government to a large degree. And so what you saw, there was a shooting at like some sort of LGBT, etc. nightclub. People died. And as soon as that happened, it was used as, well, this is caused by all this rhetoric that's anti-trans and anti-gay. This grooming rhetoric, this right-wing narrative caused this. If you start to look at the story, this kid is obviously, the shooter's obviously just mentally messed up. His head is malformed, like he was just spent his entire infancy on a bed. His dad's a meth addict, like just homophobic. Just the whole thing is like, this is just mentally ill drug culture that, like, the Democrats are actually the ones that are causing this drug culture to foment and, metastasize. And of course it's going to erupt in violence. So the narrative. And that was really fascinating because the attorneys of the shooter said that he identifies as non-binary. And then you have trans people going on newscasts saying that's obviously a man. You could see from a photo that this is obviously a man. It's like, well, yeah, but so are you. I mean, just because you have makeup on doesn't mean that but the cognitive dissonance is so strong that it has to be propped up by a sheer force of will, sheer force of narrative. And what's happening with regard to Elon Musk taking over Twitter and stripping out all that HR bullshit, all the woke bullshit, like overnight. We'll see how it goes, right? It's still in early stages, but it shows that it's possible for a single man to take control and strip everything down of all the bullshit and just concentrate on something that functions and functions well, right? That mindset could be applied politically at some point. which will really, really mess up a lot of the people who are entrenched in their positions of power. So what we're seeing with Twitter, I would like to propose, is an example of monarchy overtaking oligarchy and then kind of using democracy. Like Elon would be the king, and he's using these polls to squeeze out the oligarchical structure, the rule of the few, the elite. So you see that in real time. We'll see how it works. That's just a virtual reality, but I think it does have cascading effects with how the stranglehold, and gender is one way in which the that elite class is strangleholding, and you know, because through education, through media and stuff like that, promoting this transhuman sterilization ideology, that chokehold that it has, we can see that the people who have the chokehold on narrative aren't as powerful as they appear to be, possibly. So it might change.
Somebody tweeted out, was like, Elon Musk has taken the laughter track away, the canned laughter. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of what it feels like in a way. And you're suddenly like, oh, these people were never that funny. Do you know what I mean? But yeah.
Wow.
Well, and also, so far, the only appreciable change has been that apparently there's been this massive collapse from people who are monitoring this kind of thing in the amount of indecent imagery of children. Basically, that's the only change. It's like, okay, how is this a loss?
How did it happen?
He said priority number one is to strip child exploitation out of the... And it's really funny because a lot of Antifa accounts are like, oh God, we have to save our accounts. He's coming after us, you know, like not really understanding that they're admitting they're a bunch of pedos.
Revealing themselves. Wow. Yeah. Certainly interesting times with Elon.
Yeah.
So privileged they are, that like in every other part of human history and society, it would be like, no, the men folk would have come and got you and you would be in a ditch. That's what would have happened.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
So I just bring that up because there's a possibility of a shift in America where it won't be as disappointing as you, but it is so fraught. It is really high wire tension act with the ruling class, and gender is just a part of one part of their whatever it is. It's not really a program. I don't think it's like centrally planned or anything, but it kind of converges on an anti-human kind of ideology with the euthanasia happening in Canada, which I find really fascinating. It's going the way of like affirmative care. Like it's going the same way as like, oh, you just sign
Listen
up
to the child.
Mind you, it's the Dutch who started that, and the Belgians.
Well, that's familiar.
Wait, well, could you fill that in, Alasdair? Medical assistance in dying started, and it kind of was first put out there.
I don't say it started, but there was that fake. Was it in Belgium or the Netherlands? With that girl who transitioned, and then it all went wrong for her, and then she opted for euthanasia and died by euthanasia, and everyone was like, well, you know, that's how her gender journey ended. And you're like, oh my God. And she was really unhappy, and
oh my God.
If I recall correctly, she only had brothers, and the parents were really horrible to her. I think her father was really horrible to her, and she transitioned, and then it didn't work, and that's where she ended up. And that's what people are saying about Canada, is they're saying basically there's going to be all these kids who transition, and then the Canadian state is going to say, well, we're liberal, so you know, if you want to die,
aren't they bringing in some sort of, I suppose, like you say, affirmative care for euthanasia in Canada? I shouldn't laugh.
They're expanding it to to mental health too. And even though the mental health experts are saying that we can't decide we can never tell when a mental illness is terminal or not, or like chronic or not. We can't tell because they can change. The human brain can change. So to think that it's terminal and then to justify the suicide by doctor over a mental condition or a mature minor, I mean, it's just crazy. And you know that the lines are blurring the same way that they're blurring with the gender thing. And I think it all kind of converges for whatever reason. I don't think it's really planned, but it converges on this view of the human as just this rational, willful agent, that the only thing that a human being should be subjected to should be what they consent to. That the state is there to allow the individual
Yeah, the holy religion of consent.
Yeah.
And so if I consent you to murder me, it's all cool.
Yeah.
If I
Elective.
consent you to, yeah, it's awful. But yeah, euthanasia is been the kind of Belgium, and certainly as far as I know, Belgium and Netherlands is certainly very pro euthanasia. I remember reading about an 18-year-old who was depressed. I didn't know anything about a transition, but she
It
was
might be a
depressed
different
and she
person.
died by euthanasia. And she was 18. Like you say, what the hell? She hasn't started
Yeah,
yet,
it's
you
not
know?
barrack.
It isn't right.
Yeah, it's not right.
I've
It's,
seen these,
it's
like, they have these really futuristic death capsules you get into, and
Oh,
they
don't.
gas you up. You listen to an Enya video and you just say La Vie out. I think
Oh, don't.
I've seen them. It's like this wonderful technological marvel.
having said that, I think if I had, if I had MS and it was last stages, there's certain illnesses that are awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, know what I mean? That I could see. I get it as a concept, but not for
But
babies,
the
not for
problem,
18-year-olds.
it's all to do with where the medical care is coming from. Because you think 100 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Your doctor would have been the son or maybe daughter of your mother's doctor, and back and back
Oh
and back,
yeah.
and everyone would know, and you'd be in the village, and then if it was the end of your life, and you would have known this person for God knows how many years, whole of your life, and the doctor would have had a word with your family, maybe with your kids, and said, listen, I can make this a bit easier. Da, 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 da. Now think how many doctors we have over the. I mean, how many doctors have you seen in your
Oh my
life?
God,
It's
yeah.
not even, you
They
can't
barely
even
know
count.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the trust is, and the whole community and the shape of it is all completely different.
Wow.
And so then you get the state coming in saying, well, we need to regulate it. I'm not advancing an argument for euthanasia. I'm saying that in that context, it's probably what would have happened quite naturally at the end of a lot of people's lives. And
Oh yeah.
we never
Yeah.
needed a policy, and nobody ever said, and it was kind of this private thing, and you would trust your doctor to do
And
it.
my mother always said that she had a friend who was a doctor who used to say, well, in some cases we don't kill ourselves and resuscitating them,
Yeah.
which is the way it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
As in, they'd let it go in certain contexts.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Whereas now I think, yeah,
I don't know, it's a little bit more. A friend of mine, her husband got into real sickness, very deep sickness, and she spoke to the nurse. I'm not going to give much away here, but she spoke to the nurse and said, this is he's a vegetable and he won't like this life. And anyway, the next day the guy died. Like it seemed like, certainly my friend seemed to think he was allowed to die, and she was okay with that.
yeah,
Now he wasn't probably 60. He wasn't, you know what I mean? But she felt it was a medical decision to allow it to happen in an undersaid way, like nobody said anything.
I've had conversations
I've
with
heard
loved
that.
ones where they've said,
Yeah.
if certain circumstances, like
Yeah.
if it was basically like you're locked in for the rest of your life, they've said,
Yeah.
don't let that happen.
Oh,
Whether I would be able to,
yeah.
Living will is what it's called. When you make
Yeah.
your living will. If you end up on a reset, if you're the only way that your body persists is through machine, turn it off the machine. You can
Totally.
write that will. That's not euthanasia though. That's just
That's a good point.
the absence of care, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
is
this
crazy.
went in a cheerful direction.
Well, you wanted to go beyond gender.
Beyond death.
Death. Brilliant.
Yeah. Beyond is, the way they had word of the year. For me, beyond is the word of the year.
Yeah. There was this
You're welcome.
really interesting, when I spoke with Lisa Marciano, and I published it just last week, about GETA, Gender Exploratory Therapy Alliance. She just had a tension of even including gender at all, because this isn't about gender, it's about therapy. We're not, there's no such thing as gender therapy. It's all therapy. And she wants to
Yeah.
get away with that, but you have to onboard it somehow. You have to name it
Yeah.
after this thing that's kind of a mirage in a
Yeah.
way, or a
You
block
might be able to
for
find it on Google.
deep care. Yeah.
You have
So,
to brand it.
SEO.
But I think there's a very strong argument. A Spanish psychiatrist came out this week saying psychotherapy is not conversion therapy. It's such a strong statement. It's such a straight statement, you know? And I think that we need to think about, we psychotherapists probably should have focused our efforts in protecting the integrity of psychotherapy rather than responding and reacting to affirmative with gender exploratory therapy. Now, there's an argument you have to brand it and explain that we know about gender.
There's another way to do it, but you don't have to have it in the name to do that.
Really?
Well, no, you can present something and you can say we're capable of dealing with gender within the frame of
psychotherapy,
for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in a way we gave it away because it's psychotherapy that is all we're doing. And affirmative therapy is not psychotherapy. It's a vaguely therapeutically supportive kind of stance, but it's not therapeutic process. It's not the real deal. It's like, you know, when somebody rings the Samaritans and you'll get affirmative nodding and they won't challenge you because they don't know you and all they give. So if somebody rings
the Samaritans?
Who are the Samaritans?
Yeah, what do you mean by that? Other than an ancient Israel, Israel tribe back in Jesus' times.
So it's an emergency helpline that you can phone if you're in psychological distress.
Okay. Do you not have them?
I'm sure we do, but I never call people when I'm sad. So.
Well, you can call us, Benjamin.
Yeah. I'll be your ancient.
I'll be your Samaritan.
So it's like a suicide helpline or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they won't know you, so they don't give a psychotherapeutic process. What they give is affirmative care, which is yeah, nodding dog, you know what I mean? And we needed to proclaim the fact that affirmative therapy is not therapy. It's fundamentally not therapy. It's just supportive noises. But we allowed that through our fingers. But I think we're going to reclaim it. You know?
It's difficult, though, because you can see if a parent is like trying to get a kid to the therapist, having that word in.
Yeah.
What do you do?
And you have to know about gender to understand, to work with some kids.
So it's become a thing. So it is a thing. Yeah. So you have to understand what the thing is.
You do. You can't dismiss it. Yeah. I remember myself and Sasha Ayad and Lisa Marciano, we went to a conference of psychoanalysts, I think, and they were discussing gender. But they were good. Like they were very good in their psychology, but they had completely missed the impact of online. They did the entire conference without acknowledging there's an online aspect. And so you just thought, well, you've missed a massive section. You've missed a massive section of the psyche here.
So what were they doing? Were they just like behaving as though it's all the 80s?
Gender roles and, you know, different things around that, but missed the impact of the internet. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it just felt like, well, these people don't really know what they're talking about.
And were they older?
They were older,
Okay.
Yeah. Bless them, they were right to hold the thing, but it was shocking when you saw, imagine somebody going to that person and they wouldn't know if they were talking to a teenager, what's your tech use? Who are you watching? Who's the YouTubers? Who are your influencers? All of that,
And the parent would be paying good money.
Yeah, massive money if it's psychoanalysts.
Are they much more expensive?
Yeah. And you're going like 3 times a week and it's a much bigger process and
Jesus.
I know, frightening.
Yeah.
We we're playing catch up with the internet. I think every profession, the humanities itself is all playing catch up with the internet. I really saw that in one of the failures of the Evergreen State College fiasco was that the teachers and the administrators for all of their fucknuttery didn't really understand the power of the internet and the power of social media and the power of congregating and orchestrating a movement like that and just shattering disinformation and just wreaking havoc with reality. It was so far beyond them. And then when just what the students did, and then what happened when all that video was uploaded and the eyes of the world descended upon Evergreen, they had no idea how idiotic they looked. They had no concept of what the internet had done and the way that it shattered and blew up everything, right?
You could see that they thought they were just dealing with a series of individuals, so that the one person would come along and do the crazy thing, and they could you could see in your videos, they were kind of like, okay, well, I can deal. And it's like, no, you're up against, this is like a shoal of fish. This is a movement. It's way beyond you. Yeah. And what was his name? Who was the useless one? the president.
Yeah, George Bridges. Yeah.
George Bridges. And you could just see him just like, it was almost like he was doing triage, like moving from one crazy person to the next crazy person. And you couldn't see that it was
way out of his time.
Like a shoal of piranha fish. It's like they may not look big, but they're fucked.
And then, and also what happened outside, they could only ever conceive of it as the alt-right or MAGA was all against them. Like they had no concept of just how many voices and how many channels and how many individuals.
And the whole thing takes place like literally in the woods. So it's like even physically, they're like sheltered from the outside in this kind of fairy tale way in their little fairy tale village. It's really, really fun. I must watch that again, actually. I was just like,
that's how you got into all this world. You followed Benjamin.
I think I probably did see that before I saw your video with the ROGD Mama. Yeah, I probably did watch.
Yeah.
Because it's like 20-something episodes, your Evergreen. Yeah, it's long. I probably did watch it before.
ROGD Mother, that was the first video that clued you in?
That's the first thing I'd heard about any of this.
Really?
Yeah, I rewatched it the other day. I say watched, I mean she's not on camera, so it's mainly a listen. Yeah, that's the first.
Did you rewatch it, yeah?
Yeah. Just I thought, what was it?
Yeah.
Do you know?
And did you figure it out?
Oh, I think I already knew, but I think the key thing is she didn't come off as somebody who felt sorry for herself. She put herself forward insofar as you can do when you're in that situation. Really, it wasn't poor me. It was this bad thing has happened, and just kind of laying it out there, in that way. And I think if she had been poor me, and if she had been crying and remonstrating and all the rest of it, I probably wouldn't have made it through to the end of the interview.
Wow. And from that,
I'd love to meet her.
Have you contacted her?
No, well, I wouldn't know. Well, I don't know if she's
going to have her back on. Things changed with her daughter. They're on speaking terms now. They were at a very they were in the nadir of their relationship. Yeah, that was the first interview of that type. I don't like to interview somebody about somebody else. It's just so fraught, right? But what happened after that, Alasdair? Like, what was the next step on your gender journey?
Go on.
The next step was I joined gendercriticalresources.com, which is mainly American.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I guess you would say it's soft vetted. It's not vetted. Okay. So they do say, don't use your real name. We can't make any promises about your, whatever. But it's somewhat vetted, so people feel safe talking. And it took me about, I don't know, in my head it's like 3 months maybe to actually get somebody to talk to me face to face. So I just posted.
Why did you want somebody to talk to you? Like, what made you go on to Gender Critical Resources?
Yeah, what was?
Because I sort of had this idea that I would write about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Immediately from listening to that woman.
No, I listened to that woman, and then I listened to a couple of other bits.
Wow.
I listened to it's quite famous now, the Heritage Foundation video.
Oh yeah.
With the radical separatist lesbian and the the buttoned up.
Oh, sorry, I
preppy
thought you were talking
guy.
something else. All right, okay.
And yeah, and then and then I kind of was quite horrified at that point. So I went on to gender critical resources, and I basically said, I don't really have a dog in this fight. I'm not trans. I'm not planning to be trans. I don't have kids. I'm not planning to have kids. But I just want you to know that, there are people who are gay and don't think that you're bigots. And I think there are a couple of people that I could name if we weren't doing this publicly who are still, very
Oh,
close friends, Neil, and who were really I'd say back then they were really feeling very beleaguered.
yeah,
And
they were.
they weren't seeing any support. And it was genuinely, I think, for some of them, the first,
They were so lonely.
yeah. And it
They're
was
This
not
is
the first time
2019.
I'd heard somebody.
What'd you say, Benjamin?
This is in 2019, if I recall correctly.
No, this is 2020.
2020.
2020.
Okay.
Feels like it was about 15 years ago, but
I know.
I know. And then finally, I was allowed into the boys
The boys group.
finally. And they had to have a special. I wasn't allowed in to a support group. They did
Okay.
a special thing for me and a couple of other people who wanted to do like media work and stuff. So they kind of convened, what would you call it, like an advocacy
Okay,
meeting.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And then I did 2 interviews, and the second one was with the woman who runs Pit. This is really strange because I just really you want to say everyone's name and I want to say we're being very careful. And the woman who runs Pit kind of basically went back to the group and said, this guy's okay.
Yeah.
And then it was like, in the end, I was turning people away. I was turning people
And
away.
somewhere in the midst of all that woman who runs Pit emailed me to say, oh, there's a nice gentleman who lives near you who's interested in gender.
Oh, okay.
And I had this image of this kind of 65-year-old gentleman farmer who's probably very odd. There's a certain type of gentleman farmer around here because I live rural.
That's true.
Yeah, there is. I had him totally, and I was like, oh, that's very nice. That's very nice. I'll have a cup of tea with him someday. It's such a strange name. Totally assorted. And then it must have been 6 months before we met. I didn't take it seriously at all. I said, oh, that's lovely. That's nice. And then it was 6 months before we actually
No, it wasn't
met.
6 months.
I thought that was December and I didn't meet you till April. Something like that. 5 months.
Wait,
God,
2021, 2022?
2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd read his articles in Quillette.
Yeah, I said something like, it'd be lovely to meet you. You sent me the Quillette and I read them all in a night and it was like half a book. And I thought, oh man, this is mega. And then he was coming over to my house anyway. And
Okay,
then
the next day.
And then I was all over him. Go on in. You're a friend of mine.
And then and finally, mind you, like, I have to say,
Yeah.
from your perspective, largely the geography of it, it must have been a bit like, what
Yeah, totally.
What is this?
Yeah, totally.
And he's down the road, like,
Yeah,
it's 25
so
minutes
strange.
away. Yeah.
It was so strange. It'd be like, Benjamin, if you found out somebody 20 minutes down the road was utterly immersed. And you'd go, how did I not know this? How did I not know this? Mm-hmm. I presume, or do you know many people in real life? Go on then, Benjamin.
No.
Any gender people in real life?
Gender people in real life? No.
None at all?
Not really, no. I mean, other than not real life, this is a form of knowing.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking real life. Because if you found out that somebody really completely immersed who's written half a book, 32,000 words from what I can remember.
Yeah.
And they were living 20 minutes from you. It was just so shocking.
It's interesting because for whatever reason, this area of the United States was kind of always a little bit on the forefront, even ahead of California in a way. Like the transition thing just kind of got a part of the soup. I think it has something to do with I don't know. Like this is really kooky.
Damp.
I think it's like the it's like the gender of plants. Plants like have this weird, creepy kind of gender where they switch gender. There's just so much plant force in the Pacific Northwest. I'm in the Washington state. It's probably just as green, if not greener, than Ireland. Yeah. It's really just damp and grungy and
climate is here. It's about the same temperature in this.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we probably get more snow than you guys. Infrequently, Yeah.
That's so interesting. So there's a lot of grungy kind of plants that you think are very...
I just think that like the life here is really in dialogue with nature in a way that makes sense that people would start to, feel and just run their life through their feelings, like really favor their feelings just because the amount of plant force, but I'm being very woo, so I'm going to shut up now. But
it lives in a hippie area. That's basically.
No, it's very hippie. I mean, even evergreen, just like super, like you can just feel like just the energy of the place is just really informed by nature in a very particular way that gives rise to people just feeling, doing a lot of just feeling and passive aggressive kind of communication kind of stuff. It's just kind of interesting. So I don't know, but. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure that there should be like some sort of gender specialist in the area because it's a part of the culture here and has been for so long. But
bound to be. I'm going to make it my business. It's great when you do meet somebody in real life, isn't it?
Well, I know that
so different.
people I know a couple of people that I've met through real life.
Yeah,
which is saying something because it's not like I live in Dublin. No. Or something where it'd be like, okay, well, that's reasonable to say there's somebody within 10 minutes of me who's dealing with this, but
it's huge stuff.
Living in the middle of
Tipperary,
you wouldn't expect it, but yeah, 2 now. Yeah,
I know a few now. At least there's plenty now. When I first was into it, there was nobody in Ireland that I knew, which was lonely.
But they must seek you out, though. Those.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah.
Alasdair, have you... I know you're going through hardcore therapy right now. But I'm wondering, your brain doesn't necessarily turn off while you're doing it. So I'm just wondering, what are you thinking about things? Do you have, something percolating in the back of your head, like a project or something like that? Or
kind of. I mean, what I'm going through at the minute doesn't take very long. It's more the driving. It's 3 hours a day, but nearly all of that's driving, to be honest. It's an hour and a bit.
Radiotherapy.
Radiotherapy. The radiotherapy itself is I mean, the actual radiotherapy itself is 5 minutes, if that. I'm very invested. I'm very invested in what you're doing and kind of watching and not able to, and sort of see where it goes, see where things go.
Roddy's shaking his head every night going, Jesus, Stella, get it together.
I think that we're going to see an explosion of people whose lives have been diverted, that's a euphemism, by the internet and by grooming, narrow band use of the word grooming, sexual grooming. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking, there's a real risk that just nobody does anything about it, and it ends up being like the Catholic the scandal that there was, which just went on for decades and decades and decades. Yeah. But there's another way that we could go, which is we could talk about it. And I don't know. I mean, it's such a difficult thing for people to talk about. And I don't know that there's any appetite to talk about it. I think it's nice and...
Talk about what?
Well, I think about the effect that the internet has had on adolescents and adolescent sexuality, and particularly within that undue influence and grooming and stuff like that. And I think it's great that Gays Against Groomers are talking about that.
Yeah,
it has to be said that they're talking about grooming in a much more in a much bigger way, like indoctrination, as well as sexual grooming. And I just wonder how many young people are there out there who are going to...
Huge amount.
I know.
Huge amount. I think between 10 and 20, a kid goes from asexual to sexual. And I don't think we have a notion about how to handle it. So there's all these people who are learning their sexuality, hetero or homosexual, it doesn't matter, but through online. And they're kind of getting lured into way over their head by bad people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting lured in, and they're probably understandably half enjoying it at the start. And then they're in over their head and they don't know how the hell to get back out. And they're half compelled to go back because there is a sexual urge there. But they're also kind of freaked out and absolutely freaking themselves out. And as a psychotherapist, I've worked with quite a few people, teenagers, who have freaked themselves out in where they ended up online. Just literally got like, I am way over my head. I'm frightened and I'm turned on and I hate it and it disgusts me and I love it. And they've been given a bomb. Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose that I'm kind of thinking it could go in one of two directions, and one of them is frightening, is kind of like the priests, what we saw, and it just nobody talked about it for decades, and then when it came out, there were all these people saying, "Oh yeah, well that was an open secret," do you know?
And we all did it, and it didn't do me any harm.
Yeah,
it did everybody.
Yeah, and it could go in that direction if people don't, if people feel like they can't talk about it. And I don't know anyone who's talking about it.
Grooming? It's so clever. Like sometimes you look in things and say, how did grooming become a dirty word for us to talk about? Do you understand me? That if I say grooming, I'm the baddie rather than the... No. The thing is bad. It's not me talking about it.
I think it's kind of difficult because when we're talking about it online, there's no physical contact. So you possibly feel like if you say child sexual abuse... you might feel like you're kind of, if you're in that young situation, you're kind of aware that there's something horrendous about being physically assaulted that you didn't go through. So you don't want to say that. You don't want to make that claim.
Yeah, appropriate.
But at the same time, yeah. But at the same time, you know, if you've
been through something really, and it's extensive.
Yeah.
And I think it's girls and boys. I think it's...
Yeah, I think I would have a lot less confidence talking about what that must be like for a girl.
It's invisible. Like the drag queen story hour, for whatever reason, I don't know why the left in America really wants that to happen, and they're putting their eggs in. So, you're like, well, are you guys a bunch of pedos? But anyway, so that's very visible. It's out there. So there's a bar with a guy with fake tits on and a child putting money into the bra, right? Like, it's just like, it's there. It's very explicit. That's wrong. Visceral reaction, or it's right and we have to defend it for freedom of speech, or what about Hooters? What about Hooters? Whatever. That stuff's in real life, very explicit, very decay of society. But the online stuff and chat rooms and forums, how do you you'd have to make some sort of movie that you couldn't even show to really show people what is going on in there. Like, you can't even make a representation of that isn't in and of itself exploitive, right? It'd be really difficult. There was one CBC, Canadian Broadcasting, I think, program on pedophilia, and they had James Cantor in there. Problematic guy. I like him though. But they dramatized like a pedophile with a young boy thing, and just the way they dramatized it was just revolting, and you could see well, maybe this is a turn on, maybe this is porn for somebody else, right?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
So you can't even really show what it is without perpetuating what it is. So it's
and also a lot of these men are very clever, and so I mean there were a couple of British documentaries which they were documentaries where it's like follow the police, and they were quite general. They were following the police and lots of different investigations, but it went in a direction which obviously I watched because I was interested of guys like that, and you can see the little wheels turning. As soon as you put a camera, they're kind of like, well, I'll try and elicit some sympathy here. So it's a dangerous thing to do, even to show them in that context where
the groomers
Or the paedophiles or
paedophiles,
whatever. You
they
could see
immediately went in for the sympathy.
Yeah.
Like
You could
Catch a
see it.
Predator kind
Like
of show? Is that what we're talking about?
No. It was more like, I don't know what, maybe it's not quite the same in the US, but it would just be like a sort of like a real life. We followed the police and they would be investigating different, they'd like have one murder case that they followed and one.
They're really good at that. Please feel sorry for me. I'm just a pathetic person.
Yeah.
They play to the hilt on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's almost even if you have like a controlled, even if you're involving the police, you can see that a filmmaker might be thinking, how do I know I'm doing more good than harm here?
I was imagining, I think it would be a good film if you saw them. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to get rid of that dog again. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine.
I like the way she runs away. She comes to Scratch's door, but then she runs away. Stella, get up. She runs away when she hears you get up.
Is the theme song to your cop show, Naughty boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Is there a British version of that?
Terrible song.
No.
So
I think there'd be a good film where the kid is kind of messaging and, the words on the screen, it'd be one of those kind of taught kind of films where the kid is getting in over their head. And, do you remember that weird film? It was good. Juliette Lewis when she was a kid and Robert De Niro, Cape Fear. And do you not remember that?
Not seen it.
Oh, it's great.
Scorsese
Everybody
directed
laughed
that.
at it at the time. Great film, like I'm talking 20, 30 years old. And Robert De Niro's a teacher and he's grooming Juliette Lewis. And he's talking to her on the phone and he's half turning her on and she's only a kid, like she's only a young teenager and she's out of her depth and he brings her along and it's all words, nothing is happening except words. And it's not even dirty words. It's kind of flirting and compliments and just bringing her in with, oh, you're so clever.
So that's what they do. They're kind of feeding your top of your hierarchy of needs. So your self-actualization stuff. And they're telling you how unique you are and how special you are and how creative you are. And then actually and you're very special. Yeah. And you seem a little bit upset. Are you a little bit upset? And she's like, well, I am a little. Because I wonder, does your mom and dad not really understand you? And he does it so well. It's only a small part of the film, but he does it so well. You're just, oh my God, just feeding into so easily done with a young teenager. And I think it'd be a great film.
There is on the bringing this up. There is I've spoke with one parent who looked at what her daughter's friends were posting online, and the teenage girls are the ones seducing men too. I mean, the teenage girls are like, prostituting themselves for money and favors. So it's not just like victim. It's not just everybody's a victim. It's like there's a power dynamic that is also thrilling.
Slow down there, cowboy. Hang on. There's another way. There's a few ways to read that because as a teenage girl, it's an extraordinary situation where suddenly the world is just looking at you as in you are so hot. Yeah. And that's a very heady feeling for anybody. And so you can be half kind of going, okay, right. Okay, so you're slavering for me. You'd do anything for me. You'd give me any sort of money for anything. For even like if I smile, if I giggle at you, you're going to give me money.
6 months ago, you were a child.
Yeah, and the power is foisted upon your head. These 14-year-old girls, they didn't ask everybody to give them this powerful sexuality. It's been foisted upon them by frankly men who should be turning their heads away and staying the hell away from these girls. So they put it upon them, and then the girls start using it as you would. If suddenly everybody is saying, you're so amazing, just give me a little giggle, just show me your foot. You know what I mean? And it's that basic at the beginning. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, right, you're going to give me 50 quid for that? Okay, this is mad. This is dirty and mad and weird and Christ, I wouldn't mind that money.
But I could walk away from it.
And it's silly. And I'm having a laugh with my friends. Yeah. And, I read a great book about a woman who ended up in sex. kind of selling sex and prostitution. And it started off as this giggly laugh with her friends, where the men were all mad for them and they were online having a laugh.
Yeah.
Kind of, isn't it hilarious how these men would just literally throw money at us for anything? And then the girl understandably went back and like, well, would you really give me 100 quid for just being just looking at you for 5 minutes? Would you really? It's hard to explain. You couldn't blame those girls for it. It's been foisted on them, and they've been offered it. It would go to anybody.
I'm just thinking. I was just trying to complexify the discourse, because it's not just about pure victimization. There's power dynamics that are going from and to, and plus I bring that up too because the getting over that and doing therapy, or like putting yourself back together as an adult, you have to kind of deal with some guilt around self-exploitation. Like, I did this willfully. I put myself in, I took the bait. I participated in that. And to ignore that, I think, is to miss part of the picture.
There's a really important point in that, which is so in the interview I did with you, I used the phrase, I said, I got myself groomed.
I saw that.
It's not like I planned it and thought it out. And somebody kind of came in and said, you shouldn't say that. And my initial reaction was,
how dare you?
Fuck off, policing me.
My language.
My language in a not just my language, because I think we should weigh in on, but more just like it was obviously an intensely sensitive thing. So it's like if there's one area where you would kind of accept a bit of, whatever. But I do think that there's something in what you're saying. So for boys, let's say, where, like, if you're in a kind of exploitative, coercive sort of relationship with, I don't know, what would we say, like a predatory man, you're doing the wrong thing. So where's the line? Is saying that blame? I would say no. I would say that it's agency. It's looking back and saying, okay, I used my agency in a certain way, and maybe there's a parallel universe where instead I went out and I was robbing stuff. Do you know what I mean? Do you see what I mean? Like, if you went through a trauma and you kind of responded in a certain way, so you can accept the existence of agency without it immediately going into blame. That is possible. I think we have to be able to say, like, I recognize that I did something. I think it was the wrong thing to do. That is not me blaming myself.
Well, I don't see how you go forward without a sense of responsibility. I think you just need to own it. I don't think that just hiding behind being victimized is shutting off. Is shutting. I don't know if we're communicating on the same level.
I just want to bring up one point. Like, if the first person, if you're becoming a sexual person, whether it's online or whether it's in real life, and if the person who's a predator is the first person who's made you orgasm, and that is common, and if you keep on going back for more because you've discovered orgasm, I can completely understand why you'd be going back for more. And I don't see any agency or self-responsibility or anything like that. I think you were brought into a world that a predator brought you into, and you understandably keep going back for. No, I don't see that. I just think that predator shouldn't have been there. Maybe I'm missing you here, and maybe I'm missing you both, but it's something I think that isn't said enough, that the person who might be getting abused might be getting sexual kicks out of it, and that's fair enough, and very understandable why they'd go back.
Yeah, I think we might just be using the word agency in a slightly different way. I'm just saying, like, so in my case, I knew I was doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I had no fault and I had no blame.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're together in that. But I'm saying, like, I can't pretend that I didn't know I was doing the wrong thing. And that's important.
Okay.
But I'd say it's more important to say, if anyone said, well, you kind of knew what you were doing. No. Fuck off. Absolutely not. No,
I'm not blaming the victim. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying from a therapeutic point of view, going back into, like, as somebody who's 28 wakes up like, wow, I was dealing with a lot of pain and suffering, traces it back to online grooming, and then goes to the point of retelling that story. Like, do you not need to say, okay, I was a participant. I'm not to blame. I was groomed. I was manipulated, but I was a participant. I just claiming that and owning that, and then forgiving oneself is a part of the process. And I think to forgive yourself is important, not just to blame the other person completely, because you need to take your life back. You have to own that, even if you're in over your head or you got suckered.
I think
right?
that's very interesting. I think that we're not great at talking about forgiveness, and I wish there was a more developed conversation around it, because there's like, what's the point of forgiveness? Because there are two very different schools of thought. There's one which is it helps you. So you do something awful to me.
I know. You forgive
as a child. I forgive you, but I'm actually doing it for myself so I can move on. But there's another point of view, which is that I'm forgiving you, let's say.
Yeah.
Kind of, do you know what, like at a higher conceptual level? Because I was thinking, like, do I forgive?
Yeah.
And
your groomer.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I'm not actually sure I do, but it doesn't kind of matter, because I've got to the point where an intrusive thought, I don't have intrusive thoughts at all, and I can think about it and be quite calm.
Cool.
Now that's mainly because I resolved, I sought resolution.
Yeah.
But like, I got to the point where, have I forgiven him? I don't know. It's as though I have. Maybe I haven't. But it kind of doesn't matter, because he doesn't make my life worse.
No.
Do you see what I mean? So it depends whether you have a utilitarian view of forgiveness, like it has to
have a function.
It has to have a function, or does it? Or is it a much more spiritual? I don't know.
In your healing process, Alasdair, from what you've shared with me, you went through a vengeful phase. Like but you used your will, like you used your agency. Like, I'm going to go and do something about this. I'm going to take these men down. And then later on, you went through phases of kind of letting that go. But then when you came back on the gender scene, you're still working that out. You're from a position of wisdom, and from being in that position, you're like, okay, I want to prevent this. I want to do something with this. And it was you owning being on that receiving end of that manipulation that allows you to have wisdom, and also kind of puts your skin in the game in a way.
Yeah, but I think the big thing is to turn around and face other people, because what I was doing was so private.
Yeah. Big difference.
It's all the difference in the world. It's all the difference in the world. It's turning around and saying to other people, look what's going on over there. I can explain this to you. And here's you and here's me as normal members of society talking about something abnormal, ugly, horrible. Whereas if it's almost like it's which direction are you facing?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I'm not.
And they say in like Alcoholics Anonymous and this 12 steps and stuff, that part of the recovery is reaching out to other people.
Yeah. And
that was kind of, it's towards the end of the recovery process. You start then helping others.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah. And somebody left a message saying, like, when I was talking about it, like I came off as though I was guilty. And I thought really hard about that. And it's the best analogy I can get for it is, it's like how they got Al Capone on tax.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the guys I went after, because it was vicarious, because it wasn't
the person,
the guy. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's a victory, but it's a really hollow victory.
Yeah.
And then you combine that with the fact that it's private and you're not telling anyone about it, and it feels kind of, you're just locked in this obsessive, and you're locked in this dark world and but
you were trying to do something. That's why I'm saying, going back to agency, like it was like maybe you were trying to compensate for the fact that you didn't know what you had been doing before when you got groomed. You were doing something then. It wasn't just he didn't make you do these things. He manipulated into you doing those things, and then you had to do something about that. I just wonder about, in the therapeutic context, in the process of healing and forgiveness, if just blaming and putting it all on the abuser is kind of selling short the need for the individual to just holistically integrate their role in the abuse. And I know I'm walking on eggshells here, But I don't mean
it's
to
almost
blame
one of
anything. I'm
those-
talking about therapy. I'm talking about like later on, like getting over it, putting it behind you, forgiving yourself, forgiving the other person, doing something, converting that, right?
Fundamentally, I can only speak for myself. I don't know that that would be the right thing to do for somebody else. Ever since I started talking to you about this, I'm like, I would never ever say to somebody, do this, or do what I did.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not sure I would say to them, don't do it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say to them, do it, because I don't know you. I don't know you. I don't know how you're going to react to that.
You look back, it's very noticeable when Alasdair talks about that period, the vengeful period. You look back really like horrified. It was a bad time in
It
your
was just
life.
incredibly lonely. Do you know?
Yeah.
And also, like, I was thinking about it, like, I had a friend who went through a terrible divorce, and I was just absent. I was just not there for her, because at the time that that happened to her was when I had this really catastrophic fallout from one of these.
One of them got away.
Yeah. And I was just not there. And this is a very gentle, decent person who deserved better. Do you know?
And
She
did
deserved-
anybody know in your life that you'd been stalking somebody and nearly got them and they got away?
Stalking's a harsh word. Yeah, well, yeah.
They did?
Yeah. Yeah.
Devastating.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, that was bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was bad.
Joker got away. You know the Batman song? Jingle bells, Batman smells. Robin laid an
Joker
egg.
got-
Batmobile lost a will and the Joker got away. I think of your vengeful period as the Batman. I just see you like crawling through the night, like looking for bad guys, and the Joker
didn't
just
ever
got
leave.
away.
It's not true to say I didn't leave the house. I did leave the house, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm thinking just metaphorically.
I wonder, what to
Solitary.
do if you've been through that grooming. I would so be you, I think. I would be on the
Oh,
line.
you'd be dangerous.
I would be dangerous. I would be. I would definitely go through that period, though. I'll bring you down. I'll bring you all down.
Well,
Oh, it's incredibly powerful. Yeah.
what is? What's so powerful?
What he did,
Well, if it works.
going after somebody, going after a paedophile online, I can see why those paedophile hunters do it. Those guys.
Yeah, I
See
do.
why they do it.
I do.
But it's very hard to know because it's a mess. Nobody's got a solution for what to do.
We don't even have any numbers.
And we don't know what to do. What do we do? What does society do with paedophiles?
Yeah, no.
Nobody has come up with what the hell are we meant to do with them?
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's just like
Couple of ideas.
I mean, we don't have. I guess we have the wood chipper of reputation, right? That's the only thing we have. But like, there's no guardrails. There's no safety. Like, there's too many kids out there with parents who aren't paying attention. It's just like a, really sorry for this image, but it's just like a pedophile could be like those old Western guys who would get on a train and just shoot buffalo, just like. Because there's just so much. There's just so much opportunity. There's so much prey out
This
there.
is the thing, that if you went back before the internet, like if you were a paedophile, the best case scenario for you would be you could, God forbid, you could get a job in a school or
I know,
in a church. Whereas now it's like
Internet
you need an
connection.
internet.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
And it kind of got good. The stats were improved in the 1990s because they put in a lot of guards around sports, scouts. They started to kind of clean up their act.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, I know. And also SSRIs made a difference for a lot of those pedophiles insofar as they started. Yeah, that's what I've studied and saw. But then it almost immediately got toppled by the internet. So there might have been a 5-year.
Well, and then gender comes around and just like erases the difference between male and female and age and everything. Every single thing is dissolved by this concept of gender and identity.
Yeah. And it's also like, there used to
And
always
acceptance.
be a few creepy men in every town, and we all knew them. They were there, standing outside the shop and standing outside the church. They just existed. They were just in every town, the creepy men.
Yeah.
And those creepy men, I just don't think they're visually around. I think they're inside online now.
Yeah.
And
Well, because they can get it all inside.
yeah,
That's where it is now.
and between spell
there,
check
it's in
and
the
Grammarly, they can look halfway all right. You know what I mean? You wouldn't know. You don't see. You can see them. Back in the day, you could see a lot of creeps. Not all of them, but you could see a section of them. And they've all gone online. And I think the scandal will come out about what was going on.
Yeah, I think
TikTok,
maybe it needs to be dramatized or reported on. Like people, like it's one thing for the material to be out there, the pictures, the cartoons and stuff, but it's the act of grooming that I don't think people really understand just how manipulative in these chat boxes and how hypnotic it is to be in these communities and to be getting all this virtual endorphin rush from all this communication and there should be a movie about Reddit, right? You know, like how would you dramatize like getting your head in that space and then being pulled along and send me in the DMs and send me a picture. Here's a picture of me or whatever, you know, like
that's a really good point there, because it's like that would be a dreadful movie because it would just be words on a screen. Like imagine if you actually went to the cinema and you'd just be like, I'm just watching transcripts.
Yeah,
good book though.
It's really difficult because you're talking about hormone. You're talking about the feeling, not just the feeling of hormones, but the fast feeling of.
I could see a film and he reads out the script. The kid is reading it out as they're looking, and then the mother comes in saying, "Do you want to come down for your dinner?" No, and you know, the double life, the really kind of innocent life in school, and then coming back and going back on and it getting. I could see a great film. Really good.
But I don't see outside of drama like really getting out the word. I guess conversations like this, it's just a really difficult conversation to have, and I don't think a lot of people are really aware, really aware. And awareness is one way to give people the tools. I think it's kind of interesting how few people actually say what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Actually say, well, I was 12, I this, I that, I the other. Do you know what I mean? People don't say it, which suggests there's still an awful lot of shame involved.
Didn't I say it to you like the second night we met? And fair play to you. You didn't go, you freak, leave my house. Why are you giving so much away? Like, so I obviously felt very able.
Nice.
Do you know what I mean?
I would hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, did you guys record this?
No.
Okay, well, I'm saying it's kind of a different conversation to have behind closed doors as opposed to online.
Yeah, when somebody starts talking about something, I just say, hang on a second, I'll just get my phone and I start recording. Do you do that, Benjamin?
I do it all the time. That's all I do. I was just saying, like it's not out there because it took you a long time, Alasdair, to be ready to present that. So there's a lot of stories that I'm sure are being shared behind closed doors and stuff, but there's not general awareness of just the vortex of predatory behavior on the internet with regard to 13-year-olds. We talk about social contagion, but like the predatorial stuff, I think is overlooked, and then it's politicized, and then people who are using the groomer term for a left-right America culture war battle are even further obscuring this really nuanced, dramatic interplay of wills on the internet.
It would be very interesting to do something like what I did in Quillette, but with it would now.
Oh my God! Wouldn't that be amazing?
But where would you find the people? That's the thing, because I went to
that up.
Just like,
do you hear what he's talking about? To do the equivalent of what he did with Quillette for the parents and the lives they were having with the boys, and instead do the equivalent with people who've been groomed.
So for the ignorant audience member, the audience member in the dark, Alasdair, you made a case studies. You studied boys who had gotten taken into the trans ideology.
Close. I presented the perspectives of their parents. I think it's important to say that it could be. Sorry, I'm not nitpicking, but there is a key difference because I think they felt silenced and they couldn't, because now we've got like Pish, we've got Jen Specht Unheard, we've got all sorts of things. And then you've got people telling their story in all sorts of different ways. And like you and I know now, there's loads of journalists where we could ring them up and say, I've got a story.
We've got over 20 parent groups around the world. There's something like 25 countries now in GenSpect. It's really got big.
Whereas back then,
there was nothing.
No.
It was very little. It was all secret networks, as you said.
So I think the value of what I did is presented it with what I think there is a value to the kind of pit style thing of everyone having their own voice, but I think there's also a value of one observer kind of seeing the whole thing and presenting it, like that. So I just wrote their perspective of what had happened from their, the sequence of events from their point of view and how they felt and so forth. I think there would be a challenge to do that on the issue of grooming, because for a start, I wasn't, with the exception of one thing, I wasn't alleging criminality. There was only one criminal act which was actually grooming, in the Quillette series I did about the parents. Whereas if you were talking to a bunch of young people, there's, I don't know if an online journal would go for that, because it's arguably quite legally.
You could self-publish it. The point is to bring it out.
Yes.
I wonder, like Benjamin, do you feel under obligation not to say, if somebody says, "I want to talk to you about my grooming," the grooming that happened to me, you'd as far as I know, you'd take that on.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a personal account. And it'd probably be best if the names were left off, especially if any legal action is going to happen later on down the road.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, anonymize the details, but you just record the story.
Yeah,
it could be brilliant.
I don't know if people would be.
I think they might be willing to speak.
Willing to speak. I was going to use the word ready, because it feels like that whole conversation is way behind.
Really? Yeah.
Kind of. Like, who else is there? It's like, we can't even name names, but I mean, I can think of like two people.
Yeah. I think they're there. I think it's a dam ready to burst.
I think the kids affected by online grooming are still, I think they're still too young and still probably don't even know what happened. Or the gender thing is, again, could have just sucked their brain out.
I mean, I'm 40. Like,
You were dial-up.
I was dial-up, yeah.
But what about the kids who are 30?
Yeah. I would have real trepidation about talking to somebody who just comes out of that. I think, we would have to do research. I don't even know if there's Discord servers or support groups at all. I don't even know how these people would, like with the D-trans community, they can find each other because it's very obvious and very
they can now. They couldn't find each other a few years ago.
Yeah. There's the word D-trans. It's like, we can't even, because the thing is, you could say, right, I'm interested in people who've been groomed. You get inundated from messages from people saying,
from groomers.
No, from people saying like, oh, my school, they had a rainbow up. Like, that's not what I mean. Do you know what I mean? That's one of the big problems here. It's the loss of the word.
I'm suddenly very keen to go on and key that in and see what I get. If there is groups, and you know what I mean, if they are self-organizing,
I bet there are.
Would you?
I don't know how they'd find each other. I don't know. I don't even know if they're aware that there's others out there like them. 100%. It just hasn't been spoken about, to my knowledge.
But it would be so useful because, among other things, it would build a profile. No, I know that there is because of course there's a profile, because there's criminology and there's but I think to have that,
the profile of the groomers.
Excuse me, I was thinking more the profile of the event, but within that, the profile of groomer, and then I imagine there
and all of this kind of, that happened to me too, and me too, and I was like that, and he said that to me.
And then you start to kind of get like,
and you know what, there would be a really common relapsing in. You know what I mean? Getting away from it and then going back in, and then getting away from it and going back in. I could just so imagine how that would happen. Yeah.
I'm just thinking from a data perspective, if you could, like with Shannon Bashi and Canada's in the very beginning stages of trawling the internet through AI for detransition and transition just as a social contagion. He's getting some amazing stats, just like how it exploded, and they have the AI. Shannon Bashi, he's just this guy in Toronto. He's got like a kind of a little think tank now where they're running these AI scripts and just like looking through Reddit on the periodicity and the trend over time of transition and detransition talk, and just looking through it. So there's a lot of data out there. If you knew how to read it, you could find that. If you knew how to read these interactions and stuff, and I don't know if you can't get into DMs, but on the other side, there's a lot of this stuff that's just being hidden, but it's on a server somewhere. It's happening on servers. It's happening in these apps and these websites and stuff. And are they liable for that? Are these companies liable for
I doubt it.
I doubt it.
Yeah,
I strongly doubt it. Because the argument you come up against is it's kind of like, if I phone you and leave a death threat, that's not the responsibility of your mobile telephony provider. That's my responsibility.
But do they have any incentive to hide that data? Or do they have any incentive to reveal that data? I mean, conceivably, this is a total pipe dream, but you could have Elon just figure out on Twitter like who the groomers are, and then just massively publish all of the direct messages. I mean, it would totally ruin the security of the site and the public perception.
Burn down Twitter, but what a fire!
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you could ever do anything like that. I think it's more the story. I think it's more individual stories and individual stories and individual stories. I take your point, and I think it's very interesting what Shannon is doing with metadata. Yeah. But it's a very different, because one of the key differences here, right, one of the things about this whole gender whatever moment is that it's public and it's social. And it's kind of facing society, whereas the grooming stuff isn't. Now, of course, there's an intersection. There's an overlap.
It's secret.
It's secret.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what was so horrifying to me, is to turn around and see these guys, the guys that, like, who would have been so paranoid about being seen, and now they're just like, what's your problem? I'm interested in your 13-year-old daughter. What's your problem? And you can see people just like, I genuinely don't know how to respond to this,
Has there been any profiles of those people? I mean, I know that they surface online, but has anybody done like some deep dive? Not that you'd ever want to do that, but like that would be the way of attracting people who have been groomed. Like, okay, these people, that's the same kind of guy that went after me. That's the same kind of person that manipulated me. And like, how do I tell my story?
I don't know. I think I'm too much of a storyteller and too little of a quantitative scientist to answer. I've never done well with quantitative science. I just can't. I get it. I'm not criticizing it. It's just not for me.
No, I was just saying, like, do what you're doing, the same thing that you were talking about the groomed, but do it for the groomers.
Yeah.
Like describe these men. And
I think if you describe the act, you would get both. I think if you describe the act and the circumstance, you would get a profile of the groomers, and you would also start to see.
Do you know what is the profile of the groomers? I'm not sure of it.
I would only have hypotheses.
Yeah.
I would say they're of above average intelligence.
Cunning.
Yeah. I would say, funnily enough, I would say they're largely left wing.
You're slightly delighted to say that.
You may well take that. But no, there is something in, I don't know, maybe that's just the people I came across.
Yeah, that maybe they found you or something.
Or maybe those places are where younger people are, and so they just adopted.
Well, they're more, there's less safeguards there.
They were left wing, I don't know. Yeah, I would certainly say, and I think you have to have a certain...
Are they charming?
Yeah. You've got to have a certain chutzpah. you've got to have a certain confidence
Yeah. And cheeky kind of way about you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Funny.
probably.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. There must be stuff in criminology. And to be honest, I can't exactly bear
Yeah.
to look. I think I would find it a lot easier to talk to people who had been through that, and then because there might be
than the groomers.
It might feel much more positive. Like it might feel like they're going to sing it.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah. But it's so not the slightly odd creep down the road that I was thinking of. Do you know what I mean? Who isn't very bright.
Bear in mind,
do you know that type?
Yeah, but I was interacting with a very specific type.
Yeah.
That's who found you. They were all gay.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what that means.
The corner guy is more grab-assy than like psychological psyop grooming. Would that be fair to say?
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then with girls, you don't know. I'd imagine there's a huge amount for girls, and there'd be an awful lot of complimenting and, saying you're so gorgeous and you're so lovely.
I have a sense that with the girls, it would almost be like
OnlyFans.
It would almost be like, do you know the way endometriosis kind of is so difficult to deal with because it grows into every other part of you?
Okay.
And it's almost like with the girls, it's like, how do you even, because it would look so social, it would be so integrated with their social lives and their friendships and their looks, and like you say, their burgeoning sexuality and stuff. Whereas I think with the boys, they'd be more compartmentalized anyway.
Yeah.
Because males are.
And be more secretive.
And probably have a much clearer kind of boundary in their own minds. So if you said to them, like, okay, tell me about this experience, they would come into that answer with like a bounded, like, I know where this began and where this ended, whereas the girls might just...
Do you see with the girls, do you remember I described, the person whose book I read, you could be giggling away with your friends and it'd be such a laugh and it'd be all such fun, and then you've gone in way over your head. That could be happening.
Yeah.
Which would be different. Hard.
But a good thing to be talking about, because it's better to know you've got a problem. It's better to start to talk about it, even if you do it in really inadequate and failing terms. That's where you have to start, isn't it? You have to start.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get lots of contact after this.
Oh, yeah. It depends on my title. What should we name it? Grooming Adventures?
No.
Yeah,
Beyond Grooming.
Beyond Grooming. You're a genius.
Grooming Beyond.
The thing is, I'm hesitant to say this because I don't want anyone to hear this as an attack or even necessarily as a criticism, but I think the problem is this word grooming is now everywhere, and I wonder how many people's eyes will just drift over. Not necessarily that it's been abused, because I think it's great that people are drawing attention to this kind of political, like these 6-year-old kids learning about pansexual and all the rest of this. I think it's brilliant that the eyes of the world are drawn to that. It does create a problem for how do you
There's two different things going on.
The narrow. How do you talk about that narrow?
It's funny. In my world, grooming is very specifically what we've been talking about. And that other stuff is...
It's kind of new for that to be called grooming.
Yeah.
It's happened.
It has happened.
You can't press undo on that.
The one technological solution I can see is a internet of... like the individual where the internet knows what you are and who you are and then guards you, right? Up until your 18th birthday, right? Like if you're underage, there's a signature every time you log in, no matter where you are, it knows what you are, and you are blocked off, you're sectioned off.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that would be a privacy concern too, because that just basically means that your digital footprint is
and the odd
controlled.
Kid will learn how to go in on their parents' ID, but there'll be issues around fingerprints and stuff in being able to do it. It'll be so easy to do technologically, and I think it will come in just like they were selling cigarettes to 6-year-olds in the 1950s. And then they learned not to, slowly but surely. But now you won't get anybody. I remember when I was growing up, you could easily buy cigarettes as a kid. Easily. Do you know what I mean? It just wasn't a big deal. And now nobody's going to sell cigarettes to a kid. They're going to bring this in. They're going to bring it in. And the sooner the better, because it's the Wild West right now, especially for kids. Yeah. Well, hopefully after Elon listens to us.
Yeah. I'll send him. I'll send him.
Yeah.
Our good friend Elon.
Yeah.
We're on first name terms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Elon
interesting when he
still
came out about the. It was interesting because he's like releasing everybody from Twitter jail, but not Alex Jones. Like, well, why not Alex Jones? Because basically Alex Jones, from Elon's point of view, abused these children or said these things about these children with that Sandy Hook shooting and stuff. And Elon's just like, no, I'm not dealing with that. It's just like this hard line in the sand. And then after that, it appears that he's just going through and scrubbing and kicking off every account that through some sort of AI trickery and stuff. So I'm sure these people are going to adapt to the new, communication structure of that platform and stuff. But it was interesting to see somebody take ownership of this platform that had been ruled by these technocratic oligarchs and make a hard line in the sand. And he's the decider now. He's just like, he's the executor. It's just kind of cool. So we'll see if it tanks or not. And that, but for the time being, him going after the grooming thing might actually bring to light a little bit more if we can capture the narrative of like the left-right grooming scandals in the schools and stuff, and like say, well, actually there's this internet level one-on-one grooming that's going on that we can document. We have hard data on it somehow. And working with, one would suppose working with somebody like Elon or somebody, whoever's in Reddit, but Reddit's completely on fire. There's no way that they banned the word grooming. Like they're for it. Like,
well, they had the Amy Challoner was a moderator.
Oh, I forgot.
There's so many things you forget. There's so much, like the pile of shit show behind us. You kind of keep on going, and then suddenly you just sort of catch yourself on and think, just so forgotten about that.
Grotesque.
Yeah.
That was awful.
I think people overcomplicate what Elon Musk is doing, because to me, what he's done is he's just said something which is actually very, very standard. There is no jurisdiction in the world with free speech, because every jurisdiction, including America, has defamation laws. You have to have defamation laws. I can't say that you did something committed some terrible crime and then just say, no, free speech. And it's these morons, these people who...
I know.
And they've allowed their identity... And it's so funny because horseshoe theory, they're almost touching one another, for God's sake, is that you've got people saying, well, let women speak, meaning any woman should be able to make any defamatory claim about anyone else, including women. And then you've got the trans people saying basically like the kind of Chris Chan, like, well, she may have raped her mother with her penis, but we still have to use the pronoun she. And it's like, you're so close.
Yeah.
And over here is normal civilization saying, I think you should have the right to express an opinion, but defamation...
To a degree.
Yeah, but defamation needs to be held accountable in a court, because, that's what we've done since, I don't know, civilization. And they can't see how similar they are. They just can't see it.
Yeah. I have great hope for Elon and Twitter. I've got great hopes. I like what he's doing. I like everything he's doing.
So you're saying women need rescuing by men?
Is that right?
I believe that's what you just said. All women need rescuing by all men. That's what I meant to say. That
is not what I said, for the record, so that I don't get attacked for being a dick panderer. I'm probably already, because I'm conversing with two men. I'm probably already
ball palmer. That's what they called Megan Murphy. Stella, when I think about your life, do you guys have Thanksgiving or something like Thanksgiving as Christmas? Like a feast? Do you have a feast day in your land?
Christmas.
Okay. I just imagine you in the middle of this kitchen with like 70 pots and 5 different loaves of pies and stuff. Yeah, like your life is just so full of, like, you have so many projects. You have so many things going on.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So could you plug, what should we plug for this one?
What should I plug? Well, I'll always plug the lovely GenSpect because I'm very invested in GenSpect. Beyond Trans is our biggie for 2023.
And what is this Beyond Trans?
Oh man, it's massive, and it's myself and Alasdair's kind of brainchild, and it's a very important project. We're the only GenSpect are the only, and GenSpect is running the Beyond Trans, and it might one day fly away to be its own independent organization, but it's the only project in the world that is providing low cost and no cost counselling to people who've been impacted by medical transition. A lot of them are detransitioners, but not all of them are. Some of them have just been hurt by medical transition and they feel they're past the point of no return, or they've just been hurt by medical transition and they need counselling. And we're not only providing counselling with it, we're providing all sorts of kind of different kind of outreach, job skills, different services, and it's all on the GenSpect website under Beyond Transition, and we're really proud of it. I think.
Mm-hmm. I think. So the idea came out of D-Trans Awareness Day, and we had this idea that we would sell tickets and we would do something for detransitioners with that money, and what came, and then we had all these ideas, and in the end they all kind of went into just like, let's just try everything, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and if it does, it does. And
then we noticed as well, we had been working from the moment GenSpect was born, we were working with detransitioners, and we realised not only are they detransitioners, but also some of them retransition because it's too hard. They detransition and they find life really, really difficult. And just very, very difficult because of whatever their physical makeup or whatever's going on. And they find it hard, and they might retransition back, and then they might detransition. And to me, that feels psychologically, I could see that happening a couple of times. I could so see how that would happen. And so we had to leave room for, you do whatever you want. We just want to help you wherever you are in this. And it's been phenomenal since we launched it. We launched it in June. And like I say, something like 77, 79 clients have gone through us so far, or have been helped since we started it. So it's a big deal, and we have great, huge hopes for it in 2023. So that's a biggie. And then, of course, GETA are doing the launch of the clinical guide. So that's going to be a big deal because finally therapists will have a guide to look at. And there's a million other projects.
Anyone who hasn't already signed...
Beyond WPATH.
WPATH. We should start calling it WPATH. This makes it sound slightly more ridiculous.
Beyond WPATH. So Joe Burgo, who you'll have on, he's got this brilliant... There was such a brilliant idea to sign a petition to kind of show your dissatisfaction with the ridiculous document they released with their eunuchs and their this, that, and the other. There's a million projects out there. Thankfully, we have organised, that guy, Joe Hill, the great union, he was a union leader from the America in about 1911, 1912, about 100 years ago. And he was shot dead. He was organising all the men in the mines. And he's a great guy. It's a great song called Joe Hill. And his last words, when he was shot dead, his last words were, "Don't mourn me, organise." And that's what we have done. We've organised. And it is the most powerful thing you can do with a group of people. You know what I mean? And so I think we really, as a movement, we've really organised, and I think the fruits are being seen.
That's what feels different. You're right.
Yeah. We're organised.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
This is very historical. I feel good. I arrived on the scene just in time to watch this whole thing come together.
You're in the middle of it.
You're a major part of it, Benjamin.
Just
wriggling off the hook if it all goes pear-shaped. He's like, all right.
I was just watching it.
Just doing a few casual chats.
On a 754th detransition.
I have like 5 detransition stories in the pocket. I'm like, I can't publish. I need to publish something other than these, like I love the stories and stuff, but I want my channel to have a little bit more variety. But it's just because I just have so many. But
is that why you stuck us in? Are we a little bit of fluff here?
Yeah. We talked about death and grooming, like nice little palate
With a bit of
cleanser,
froth.
you know?
Yeah.
And musicals. To be honest, I think musicals might be the worst of the three. I didn't say that.
Ouch.
I didn't say that, but I'm not committed to them being the best.
Yeah, maybe.
What are you guys up to for the rest of the night? You guys have a
We're watching
soccer?
the Late Late Toy Show.
Oh,
Whether he likes it or not.
I was
You have to watch the Late Late Toy Show. It's just essential. It's what you do.
We could have a small curry.
Yeah. And watch the Late Late Toy Show.
I did eat like an 8-year-old child today. My diet today was like, if you said to an 8-year-old, what would you like to eat today? And it was, I had trifle for breakfast and fruit pastels for lunch. And just,
well, I think you're entitled to live as you please.
Yeah.
Ish, no?
Ish, to an extent. I had a burger, but it had lettuce and tomatoes, so that's kind of salad.
That's 2 of the 5 a day.
Exactly.
Well done.
I'm going to end it there. Thanks, both of you.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Thank you, Benjamin. I'm going to blow my nose.
You're sicker than me. I thought I was
I hope
really
I'm not
sick.
giving it back to you.